Welcome, welcome, welcome to everyone. Our topic today is a topic that I can't speak for the rest of you, but I know that I have not had an experience where I talked about abortion from a Black woman's perspective. So that's, today it's Black women on abortion. What say we? And what are our perspectives and what do we need to know? We have two guests who are going to enlighten us with things that we probably just haven't thought about. I know in my preparing for this and speaking with them, I certainly, learned things that I had not, was not familiar with. So really excited about that. You know the rule that we have every week, and it's really going to be in place today. This is a very sensitive topic. I also send everybody an email. So if it's something that you want to ask and you're not wanting it to be associated with your name, you can send it to me in confidence. Email it to me or drop it in the chat and I'll ask the question for you. But one thing that we must keep in mind today is that always we say that respect is guaranteed, comfort is not. That is still the case today. But a greater caveat to that today is that respect is very high because this is a hot topic. Everybody has their own opinions. And we all come from a different place and a different perspective, and that's why we're here to talk about it. So we can disagree, but we cannot be disagreeable. So is that a deal? Everybody on the same page with that? Okay.
Yes, I am.
Okay, Linda. Yeah, so that's important. So before we get started, Lena, let's see, Lena Kendricks. Are you going to come on screen, Lena, or are you just going to read to us blindly? Lena?
I'm just going to read if it's okay.
Oh, that's fine. I was going to spotlight you. So Lena Kendricks is a woman who one of my friends, Glenda, put me in touch with today, and she read me a piece that she recently submitted for publishing, and it is so appropriate to what we're going to talk about today. So if everybody can just chill for a minute and give Lena your undivided attention, and she's going to read to us a piece that she recently wrote about abortion. So Lena, the floor is yours. You're muted, Lena.
Yeah, got it now. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. I'll start here. It's entitled My Choice by Lena Kendricks. It's 1969. Abortion was illegal in Virginia. I don't blame Virginia for my choices, nor my lack of available choices. I just consider it the sign of the times. In 1969, I was starry-eyed, infatuated with love, life, and looking forward to my high school games and events. After all, I was a cheerleader, co-captain, but destined to be captain my senior year. I had so much to look forward to until I was faced with a devastating event. I became pregnant the second semester of my junior year. I was young, I was naive. I believed what a boy would tell me more than an adult would tell me, thinking that if I took the risk of having sex, pregnancy wasn't one of the things that would happen. My boyfriend at the time convinced me that I could not become pregnant the first time without protection. Nothing could happen the first time, but something did happen. I got pregnant. When I told my mother, she asked me what I wanted to do. I was 17 and I saw my future through the eyes of the immature 17-year-old I was. My only goal in life at the time was to be varsity cheerleader captain. If a baby were to interrupt that, my answer is no. My mother had held the hands of relatives who had had abortions and didn't want that life-threatening experience for me. In my senior year, I became a mom. Birthing and caring for a baby replaced cheerleading practice. I never got to wear the uniform again. The father and I decided that we would get married. They would solve all my problems, plus give me a chance to wash some of the shame from my name. We were in love, so I thought. We spent time together making plans for our future. I became pregnant again and realized I was going to be by myself. My boyfriend was just telling me what I needed to hear and not what he was really going to do. He left. I knew I could not tell my mother nor go through the shame and pain of having another child. I knew that I didn't want to have another child. I was still a child myself. My mother was a mother. I was just a daughter. In order to obtain an abortion, a female needs to know which doctors, midwives, or any other persons were willing to perform one. These procedures were usually done outside of a medical facility, usually in private, undisclosed places. Sometimes the doctor would come to the girl's home. I knew I couldn't bring anyone to my home, nor did I have the means to pay for one unless I got the help from my parents. I didn't let anyone know about the pregnancy, not even the father. This time I decided I would handle things myself. It was 1970, and women were beginning to speak up for their rights. I had read haunting and magazine articles about how women were performing their own at-home abortions due to the lack of available medical care. Embarrassed, ashamed, and desperate, I got a coat hanger and sterilized with alcohol. After inserting in as far as I could without screaming louder, I twisted and turned it, hoping to remove any chance of a fetus growing there. This writing is the first time I've ever told anyone. I suffered the pain alone, worrying about the infections, as well as the possibility that it had not been successful. After bleeding for longer than a regular period, I concluded that I was no longer pregnant. I got married a couple of years later, had 2 additional children, and was pregnant with my 4th child at the same time that my marriage was falling apart. I was employed part-time and my husband was leaving, and he made it clear that he was not going to provide financial assistance. This meant I would have to get a full-time job. I decided to have an abortion. In 1975, the Supreme Court had ruled that Virginia's bans on abortion clinics advertising their services were unconstitutional. I was fortunate that now there was a woman's clinic that performed abortions and an actual doctor was on the staff. When I initially decided to have an abortion before the procedure was scheduled, I had to first undergo an evaluation and talk with a counselor. Unlike my first abortion, I now had someone to talk to and educate me on the ramifications of my choice. I was approved for the abortion, and a few days later, I was scheduled to have the procedure. The year was 1977. And even though the Supreme Court had removed the ban, there was still great controversy. I remember crying once I got home, not due to pain, but because I was a mother. And I knew the joy a newborn could bring into your life. Subsequently, I also realized how having another mouth to feed would be devastating. Having an abortion is a big decision and not an easy one. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if that had the
Thank you. Where did that appear? Was that published?
Lena.
No, it has not been published. I'm trying to get it published.
Very powerful.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you
real.
for sharing.
Very real.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. That took a lot of courage, and I so admire you.
Thank you for listening. I mean, it took, I have a good friend that pushes me to the limits, come out of my comfort zone. And she's the reason I'm here.
Yeah.
She's my good friend too. She pushes me too. Thank you, Glenda. We love you. Don't we,
Okay.
Lena?
Thank you.
So I thought that was so appropriate for us to lead into our discussion today. It hit on everything. It hit on, I'm a young girl, what do I do? It hit on abortions were illegal. What do I do? It hit on the fact that someone pointed out to me earlier today that it's not just young single girls who we think of abortions. Married women married women and older women also find ourselves in that position as well. So I thank you, Lena, for sharing that with us, and anything that any of us can do to help you get it published, you just let us know, because we're here for you. Because that was beautiful. I mean, insightful. I would say beautiful.
Maybe we can get on Gloria's program, because that's a constitutional issue. Maybe Gloria Brown Marshall will let her come on her program.
Yeah, there's definitely resources here. So anyone who feels that you have some way that you can help Lena get that published, then please, drop it in the chats to her, or send it to me, and I'll make sure that she gets it. But we're all about networking and helping one another, and that's what we do. So I was going to talk about some other stuff, but instead of doing that, we're going to go right into our guests. We have 2 guests here today. We're going to start with Marsha Jones, and then we're going to have Moji. I'm messing up your name. Alawode-El, help me.
It's Alawode.
I know your mom told me. Sorry, I meant to call her before now to say, how do I say her name? So, and then we're going to have Moji's going to talk to us afterwards. But first of all, let me spotlight Marsha. And let's see, Marsha. Marsha, did you need to share the screen or anything? Or are you good?
No, I'm just going to talk. I'm not really a good screen sharer.
Oh, okay. Well, then we're related. Then we are
Let
related.
me tell you. I'm going to tell you, this whole COVID thing done messed up my whole game. You know, I'm used to like trying to get in these places and set the energy and do all that stuff to kind of look so that folk can look over the fact that I have all of these deficiencies working. And one is this whole technological world. I'm not even going to try to get it right. Okay. So
let me do a quick.
I know that's right.
Let me do a quick intro. So obviously you can see Marsha and I are friends. Marsha, how do we met through Dazon?
We met through Dazon at an event, I think was it DC? DC, yeah.
Wendy might not be on this call, but Wendy's house, because Jose, who is now on here, Jose was preparing to do a TED Talk, and we were there. So, yep, and then we went to, Marsha, Penny, and I went down to Louisiana to, the Whitney Plantation. It was supposed to be a bunch of women, but it was the three of us, and it was just powerful. So if you get a chance to do that, ladies, please do that as well. But without further ado, let me tell you who Marsha is. Very, very impressive. One of the few Black women, the only Black woman I know who's working in this space. So of course, when this topic came to mind, Marsha was the first person I thought of. Marsha is a Texas native, co-founder and executive director of the Afiya Center, the only reproductive justice organization in North Texas, founded and directed by a Black woman. She is a national grassroots organizer, community mobilizer, professional speaker, and health educator with a commitment to transforming women and girls' lives. She's pledged to the development of leadership and engagement of activism among women by challenging harmful systemic and political constructs to advance the economic health and safety of women and girls. She holds a bachelor's degree in psychology and is a graduate of the Black AIDS Institute, African American HIV University. So you have to tell us about that. And Tyndale Technology School. Marsha has served on various boards and capacities and as an act of service to honor of Black women. So the whole point, like I said, of us coming together today was, I think that a lot of assumptions are made about where Black women stand in terms of abortion. And I think people who are in the field, maybe you've had an opportunity to have this conversation with Black women, but lay people such as myself, and I think many of you have not. So this is the opportunity to ask those questions. I think as long as we're not speaking up, a lot of assumptions will be made for us and what we think. So this is our opportunity to talk about what it means to us. Does it affect our voting? Like, we have a major election that's coming up and we have a dismantling of Roe v. Wade. Is abortion going to make a difference in, your decision at the polls? So these are the kinds of things we'll talk about today. What kinds of things do Black women have to consider when they're looking at an abortion, like, because they have social and economic things that maybe white women don't have to deal with. So these are the kinds of things Marsha's going to talk to us from firsthand experiences, and Moji, who works in abortion rights, she's going to tell us what her experiences and perceptions have been as well. So I'm going to take myself off screen. That's all on you, and we'll look forward to hearing from you. And please drop, Marsha, do you want people to wait until you want to just speak and then we can do questions later? Or if they have a burning question, do you want them to ask it?
They can ask it. I'm okay with it.
Okay. All right. So it's all on you. Thank you so much. Marsha Jones, you have the floor.
So first, I just want to say thank you. I want to say thank you, Helen, for this opportunity because, so I follow when Black women gather a lot, right? And like most people, Sundays happen and I can never get on because for the better part, prior to COVID, Sundays is usually the only time that I have to just have me time. So by the time I clean up, lay down, it's like y'all through. And then I just want to thank you. I want to really say this. This is so freaking awesome for me. I never get to talk to Black women about abortions. Never, ever. I'm always like, this is what happens. A student from a school that's usually a white school will call me to come and speak to their class or whatever. And it's usually just her. And maybe she's been able to persuade a couple of other students to come. Some white instructor will want to like be all woke and everything and call me to come in and talk to her Black class, you know, and then usually it's only like, you know, it's very few there. When I'm talking to women, I am always talking to a room full of white women. White women invite me. The room is full of white women. When I sit on panels, usually white women, I don't care. I never, ever get to talk to Black women. So if I seem like overly excited, y'all, I am super amped. I am overly excited to be talking to Black women, right? Not talking at, but talking to, because I find myself having to talk at those other girls. And I am definitely unapologetically Black. Our organization is unapologetically Black. That's what we do. That's who we are. And we unapologetically center women. So 3 things I'm gonna get out of the way right quick. I already got one. The other thing, let me go on and knock the Black AIDS Institute out of the way. So a few years ago, Phil Wilson, if any of y'all are familiar with the HIV, the history of the HIV world and the work, Phil Wilson was one of the very few Black men who decided to step up and lead so that he could better shape what HIV would look like, care, treatment, stigma, and all of that stuff for Black folk. And Phil knew that it was very important that Black folk need to be in the community talking to Black folk, and that we need to be able to talk about HIV, not just from an anecdotal place, but also being able to understand the data that drove HIV in our communities, understanding what HIV looked like, helping folk to understand what treatment would look like, how to become more involved in research, all of those kinds of things. So he got funded and he came up with this thing and he called it was the Black AIDS Institute, and that's the name of the organization. But this specific segment of it was the African American HIV University. And so every 2 years they would do a search for advocates across the United States to apply. And I just by osmosis, y'all, just a Virgo in me. I had left corporate America. I wanted to know how to do HIV on the ground organizing and talking to Black folk. And so I was Googling everything Black and HIV, and the HIV, African American HIV University popped up, and I got accepted, and I jumped on a bus and went to Los Angeles, California. Had never been out of Texas. Had never been to Los Angeles. Didn't even know if it really existed. I just went because it was calling me. And I graduated from that. And that's one of my proudest achievements, going to and finishing the Black AIDS Institute. The third thing, what makes the work that I do important, that's the only reason I'm going to clarify that last school that you mentioned that I went to was not a technology school, it was a theology school. I graduated from Tinsdale Theology School. It's in Texas. It's a theology school that, for the better part, is taught by white folk to white folk. For some reason, my pastor wanted me to go to Tinsdale, and I went. And so I said it to say I'm a church girl, and I'm also a trained church girl. And I believe in all of the things that Black churches sometimes teach, but I also push against it. I push against it as hard as I believe in some of it. So I'm more spiritual than I am religion. So as I talk about abortions, we do talk about it from our perspective. And so the thing is here, the thing that the sister just read, that's it. Like, we could literally, when we're talking about Black folk and abortions and our decision-making around that, we could shut this thing up. I could close down my computer and we could go home, because exactly what she taught, what she read about her own real experience is exactly what we experience every day. So the Afiya Center, we've been an organization for 14 years. We started out centering Black women's experiences with HIV, went on to become, ground our work in the reproductive justice movement and in that work, because we knew that it was important that we had to give the entire lived experiences of these folk. And so with that, we also wanted to make sure that we were talking about our reproductive choices and our reproductive health, and transforming our relationship with our reproductive health, our sexual reproductive choices. And so eventually we moved on and on and on. And one day I was sitting at home and I kept getting emails from folk. It was in the wintertime. Folks kept emailing me, answered my emails, and lo and behold, these white girls, all these white girls didn't even know they knew me. trying to get me to come to a rally that was happening in Austin. And it was a rally around Roe v. Wade. Surprisingly, that's what we're doing this weekend. And they wanted me to come and they wanted me to speak. And I was like, who's these white girls? They don't even know me. What do they want me to speak for? So they wanted me to speak about Black women getting abortions in Texas, because Black women were getting all of these abortions and these white girls was talking about it. And so I decided not to go to that particular meeting because in my mind, I was thinking I had just got a report from the Black Women's Roundtable, and it was talking about Black women so many years into Obama's administration. It was a lot. And it talked about Black women and maternal mortality. And it said in the United States, Black women were more likely to die from childbirth than women in Lebanon. And I said, well, shit. Why are they talking about abortions and Black women are dying? Why do they want me to come talk about that and Black women are dying? And so I didn't go. But then later on, this thing happened. Wendy Davis gave this filibuster. And all of these women were in Austin. And I was getting these phone calls again. All of these women. And I decided to go that time, but I got sick and had to stay in my hotel room. And I was looking at it on TV, on the internet, just like this. Y'all, they had these orange shirts on, hands off our bodies, whatever they were saying. Y'all, they had all these people coming up to the podium speaking before Wendy got there. You had all these people protesting. You had all these, nobody get killed, and nobody get hurt. But you had all these women just, I'm not going to leave out. I know it's overcrowded. All these women, everybody got up there was talking about Black women and abortions and this and that. That room looked like a darn bag of corn candy. All them orange shirts, you get the rest. All them orange shirts, corn candy. That's what it looked like. No Black women. And I said then, it stops today. It stops today. White women in Texas is not going to keep talking about Black women in Texas abortion experiences. They're not going to do that. And that's what brought me into it full force, was that particular thing. And I came. I wasn't invited by them to come and get money to work with Black women. I wasn't invited by them to do it. They just wanted my face in there. It's wanted my face on the screen, right? They just wanted to hear me talk, because I understand that people, they fetishize over all of the things that we bring to the table. And so they just wanted to hear me talk. That's it. They just wanted that piece, you know, Black woman talking. And so I started to do this. And in 2018, I was sitting, in my 2017, I was sitting in my office and our phone rang and we did a billboard. Now this wasn't the billboard where we said abortions was self-care. This was the other bill. We did another billboard before we said abortions was self-care. The first billboard nobody cared about because we was really talking about maternal mortality, but we used some abortion language. And so our phone started ringing. I thought it was a hoax because it was a girl. She kept calling. She wanted us to help her to get an abortion. We didn't do abortion work. So she kept calling. So finally I answered, and it was a young girl. And I said, why do you want, I said, it's other people out there doing abortions. Why are you calling me? She said, one, I Googled your name and that's what came up, Black women and abortions in Texas. And two, I wanted to make sure that if I got this abortion, that I would be with a Black woman from the beginning, the middle, and the end. I needed to have a Black woman who would understand my experience. I needed to have a Black woman. And so later on, she and I talked more. And she said, I needed to have a Black woman who knew that even though my uncle was not going to pay for me to have that, was not going to sign the papers for me to have this abortion, I needed to have a Black woman who would understand and help me go out there on the corner where my mom is smoking crack and find her so that we could get this paperwork signed so that I could get this abortion. I needed to have a Black woman who would do this and not shame me or my mama. And that's why I wanted to be here. And I said, wow. And so we did. We helped her to get her an abortion. And after her abortion, she was happy because she didn't want she didn't want to repeat her mother's cycle. And she was able to also, she's in school, she's graduated since then. And she was able to go on from high school to college and able to now get a place to live, and her mother's not using anymore. We then so they just started calling us from nowhere. And then another Black girl called. And when I got to the clinic to pay for her abortion, because that's another thing that happens, why Roe don't necessarily serve us that much, because access don't necessarily mean access. Because even though you go to these places and they pledge to help you pay for your abortion, but if you come to the table with zero, it doesn't matter what they pledge, because you still can't get the abortion because you don't have it. And these are the women that we serve. And so when I got there and I was leaving, because she didn't need to see me, I didn't, want to be in her life in that way. And she ran out, it was cold. And she said, Miss Jones, I just wanted to stop and hug you. And I said, oh, sure, baby, you can hug. how are you doing? Then I said, who are you? So she said, well, you're paying for my abortion. I said, oh, okay, but you know me. And she said, and she was crying and it was cold. And I said, what's wrong? You're going to be all right. Did you change your mind? Because I'm here for you too. And she said, no. She said, but I just know I needed to get this service with you. Your daughter told me about you. And I wanted you to do this. She said, because these other women won't understand that I'm with this man who's not good for me. I can't leave him yet, but I also can't have no other children by him. And if I have to have this baby, I'm going to commit suicide. And I can't do it. I can't do it anymore. And I said, okay, well, we here for you for that too. And I told her, I gave her a hug and I said, we here. And when this is over, we still gonna be here, because one of the things we do is that once we serve women one time, we are with them for the next 13 months, because most of the women we serve are underpaid, underinsured, living in communities that's not safe, can't always pay their bills. There's a whole lot of things that happen. And so we have to make sure that they don't fall in the cracks. So these are the kind of stories they have. These are the women that we're talking to who's getting abortion. These are also women that you're not going to necessarily hear. They're not going to be storytellers. They're not going to do all of that. They're going to have their abortion and they're going to go on. Some people say, well, I can't support abortion because it's a form of birth control. Well, maybe it is, maybe it is. I don't run from that. It is, it's just that. Anytime you prevent a pregnancy from going full term, whether it's pre or post, it's birth control. And people get to choose what form of birth control that they're going to use for them. But there's so many stories. Helen, let me know when I've talked too much. There's so many stories that we sit inside of at the Afiya Center as it relates to Black women getting abortions. And here's the thing, they tell us their story. They want us to know. They want to say thank you. And then even sometimes when we send them to the abortion, to the clinics and to the funds in Texas, they usually wind up coming back to us. And they come back to us again because they don't have that other money. Now, mind you, until Senate Bill 8, we didn't have enough money to do what we did, but we never turned anybody down. We never said no. We have to be there for the women that we go to church with, who don't want anybody to know that their daughters are having babies. I sometimes help women who I worked with, who've gotten pregnant later in life and don't want anybody to know. Their daughters, their granddaughters, and they don't want anybody to know. Sometimes I have to walk that process through myself because they don't even want to talk to the person who do abortions at the Afiya Center. Because they just literally don't want nobody to know, because the shame that we have forced Black women to live in as it relates to their reproductive choices is almost staggering. And so these women would rather do anything than for somebody to know that they actually had an abortion. But be clear, we connect that same shame to how often they do birth. And so we can't have it both ways in the Black community. We can't shame women for having baby after baby, and then shame women when they choose to have an abortion. We got to pick a struggle, and so that's so that we don't always choose that struggle out loud. And so the abortion story at the Afiya Center, and you all don't hear about it a lot, right? Because the story that I tell is not as romanticized. I don't get on a news show and romanticize or just talk about abortion in and of itself, because I cannot do the women that we serve at the Afiya Center any justice if all I do is regulate that life-altering change in choice to the one thing that should be happening under the care of a healthcare provider, because abortions are healthcare. And so we have to talk about poverty. We have to talk about it. We have to talk about economic justice. Our work is centered in economic justice and how that sometimes create the decisions that folk are making as it relates to birthing or not birthing. It is so important. The data even tell us that every time Black girls have continued unintended pregnancies and they go full term, it increases generational poverty. We did a billboard a few years ago because a group came and said, they put a billboard up and it said, abortions are not good for us. Abortions are not healthcare. There's a lot of stuff that wasn't true on that billboard. And I was upset about it because they put it in a very Black, poor community. the audacity of them to talk about this in this community where folk didn't even have health care, where folk were, and it was a community where there was lots and lots of young women who are already getting shamed about their choices, who have to ride the bus, who have to do all of this, who are living in communities that's so environmentally unsafe, their children will be sick for generations and generations and generations. And so our response to that was to put a billboard up that said that abortions are self-care. They are, abortions are self-care, and abortions absolutely are a radical form of self-care. And because of that billboard, we got a lot of slack, so much slack that we had to put security measures in to our organization. And we got a lot of slack from that. And my heart hurt because the biggest slack we got was from Black women. And probably because I don't pay attention to white women, but the biggest pushback we got was from Black women. And I was answering those as many calls as I could answer, because it was so many I couldn't answer them all. And I would sit up all night and read emails, and I would read all of this stuff on Facebook. And there were women who were saying stuff like, and these were Black women. I know they're Black women because I was talking to them. We need to know who funds you so that we can shut your organization down. Not thinking that when you shut my organization down, you're going to cause about 12 Black women to not have work. About 12 Black women who were able to move from the welfare role to a paying job and a decent paying job. All of these things. And you were going to prevent us from doing the work that we do for women living with HIV. You were going to prevent us from doing the work that we do for women dying in a state where they refuse to acknowledge maternal mortality in Black women and half-ass serve us with a half-ass plan for Medicaid, knowing that we needed more but don't care. Who have so politicized our reproductive choices that it is ridiculous. But you wanted to close us down, and you wanted your church to close us down. And we had to remove everything about us clean us from all social media as much as we could, because they wanted to know where we were, because they wanted to make operating so uncomfortable that we wouldn't dare open our doors. That hurt. All I wanted them to do was talk to me. All we want to just talk. We can talk this through. I'm not trying to convince you that abortions is for you. See, that's what we have to understand. I'm not trying to convince you of that. What I'm trying to talk about is that folk have the right to choose what is the next best step for them. What is the right for them to choose? And also, I'm trying to give you some ways in which you can support some of these decisions. Because I also talk to women who say, if I knew somebody wanted this child, I would have it, because I don't want it. When folk have said stuff to me about how they can support my work, but they can't support abortion. And I have said to them, and how many families have your church, when you're at those clinics, Black woman, you and your husband trying to shut down something. How many of those young girls have you sat down and put a life plan together whereby which you're going to help her make sure she go and finish school, that you're going to help her take care of the children that she already have at home. And since you're going to force her to have this one, you're going to make sure that she have health care so that she don't die within a year of this child being born, or this child don't die. And y'all going to put a plan together to make sure that this child is successful. Because see, that's what you can do. That's what you can do. And so these abortion stories are so intricate and they're so different. And I would say to you all, I would ask a question. Is it that Black women don't want folk having abortions, don't believe in abortions? And I know we can't speak for all Black women. Or is it that we don't like the narrative that's being told about abortions? Or is it that our stories are not being told? And these are somebody else's stories. I know for me, I had a problem with white women standing on a podium talking about serving and giving all and all these abortions for Black women. I had a problem with going to fundraisers and they get up and they read their notes that they got, and they have to be very clear and say, and we got this was written to us, and it was written to us from a Black woman. And she said, all of the money, and you did this and that for us, and it saved my life. I had a problem with that. One, we don't need you telling our story like that unless we want to tell it. And it ain't necessary that the story, we have yet to read one of those kind of stories at any fundraiser we've ever had. And unless she want her story read, we won't. And so it is so varied. And I'm not saying this is all Black women's experiences. But we serve poor women. We serve under-resourced women. We serve women who are in situations where they are being harmed. We serve women who are homeless. These are the women that we serve. And we also serve women who didn't even know that Roe v. Wade had anything to do with them. In 2013, when Texas won, 2014, 15, or whatever, when when we had the bill in Texas, the thing that Wendy Davis did the filibuster on, where they put these restrictions on all of these abortion clinics in Texas. They had these trap laws, and they were just unreasonable laws. Like doctors had to have privileging rights. You got to have privilege right to give somebody a pill. Come on. They had to change the doors on the clinic so that they could be like in an operating room. Like, it was just all kinds of crazy stuff. And so that was going to cause all of the abortion clinics in Texas, for the better part, to be closed, like 40 some clinics. And pretty much all of them were closed, except for about maybe 12 or 13, if that many. And so we won. The Supreme Court did what the Supreme Court is supposed to do, and they overturned it. And as I was standing there, and people had been calling me all morning, reporters had been calling me, and folk had been calling me. And I was excited when I first heard about it. I was like, yes, we won. The clinics are going to be open. And then as the day went on, my excitement was beginning to dwindle, because at 4 o'clock, I had to go in front of our city hall and speak to a crowd. And what I knew at about 12:30 was that I wasn't going to be speaking to no Black folk. I knew that I was going to be speaking to a bunch of white people. And I was in a community, because our city hall sits, except for the last few years because of gentrification, now that has changed, but our city hall sit right at the back of one of our poorest communities, South Dallas. And I knew, and I said, the women we serve don't even know that we need to be celebrating today. They don't even know that Senate Bill 2 impacts their life. So many of the women that we serve don't even know that Senate Bill 8 impacted their ability to get abortion, because most of the women who come to us are already more than 12 weeks pregnant. I think I had asked our abortion, the person who do our abortions, who answered the phone, I'm sorry. I said, is it normal? Because when COVID happened, we had a conversation, and the women that we were served to, and we was trying to serve during COVID, when they was opening and shutting our clinics, calling them essential and non-essential, they were both like 16 or 17 weeks. And I was like, oh my God, we don't even have time to get them served, because by the time we get them to another state. And I asked her, and she said, yeah, a lot of our women are. So what is that saying? And I'm going to be ending with this. What is that saying? Our women don't even come to the clinic to even get services until they are well far in gestation. And there's a lot of reasons that I know that happens. One is that because of the piss poor ass school system that we have, that refuses to teach comprehensive sex education, people don't always have a good understanding of how their reproductive health even work. And so that's one. So most of the time people don't even know they're pregnant. 2, we don't have access to health care. So people don't have a doctor that they're going to. So if they have irregular periods, have they even equated irregular periods to being pregnant? Or if irregular periods is a part of their norm, do that even mean that they're pregnant? 3, most of the women that I have talked to personally around abortions, they have this whole long conversation. We just heard it in the sister's story that she read. Can I do this? Can I not do this? What are all my options? What, if we do this, if we put that bill, if we get that paid off, if we do this, can mama step in? It was Nana gonna be able to step in? Or my sister? All this stuff. Then they be like, geez, they already doing that for the other 2 I have. And so they go through all of these things. And by the time they get there, they are further along in gestation than normally women are when they have an abortion. So that means it costs more. And not just costs more on the front end, but all the way through, because that means it's going to cost more. We're probably going to have to send them out of state. And that was before Senate Bill 8. We're going to have to pay for them to get out of state, because we are compassionate, practical support. And so what we do is we take care of all of the things except for the abortion or the service. But because of the women that we serve, that is a part of our practical support, because a lot of times they don't have that extra money. And so we got to make sure that the children are being fed at home. We got to make sure that when they get home, they can be fed. We make sure that they have a care package waiting for them when they get home. We do all of these things. If they miss time off of work that they cannot claim or cannot be paid for, we got to make sure. So then that's a loss too. Who's going to pay my rent if it's late because of this? Most of the women we serve are, like I said, they're underemployed. And so all of these things happen. So it's a journey before they decide to get to the abortion clinic, not always understanding that the longer they wait, the more expensive that it is. So that's our abortion. That's my abortion work at the Afiya Center. And we do support folks' choice. We support 100% bodily autonomy. Folks get to decide if they're going to parent and what that parenting is going to look like. And if they parent, they also get the right to do that in a sustainable way and to do it free from state-sanctioned violence. You cannot, on the one hand, say that you support life and kill our children every day. You can't. We have to call America out on this. And so, and for real, in closing, I had said this to Helen the other day, and I said this to my program director. When Senate Bill 8 happened, I said, ooh, y'all, ain't nobody talking about Senate Bill 8 in our community. Black folk ain't talking about what it's gonna mean to not be able to get an abortion. People not talking about what this is gonna mean. But most importantly, we ain't examining what this is gonna mean at the ballot box. Because abortion is gonna be at the top of the ballot box for the next probably 10 years or more. We ain't never stopped fighting for Roe, even though Roe was never really for us, but still. We got to talk about it. Because what will our stand? Like, we're going to have to come to terms with how we feel about abortions. Because it's going to impact our next political leaders.
That was powerful. There was 1 second, there was somebody who had a question. Ms. Gibbons, did you want to ask your question now, or can it wait until after we hear from Moji?
Well, I mean, I could ask it now if you want. It doesn't matter. I could, go either way.
Okay, so let's hear from Moji first, and then we'll come. You'll be the first to you'll get the first question.
Okay, thank you.
Miss Marsha, that was so powerful. We feel your passion. Women are asking how to make donations. Make sure that you leave your link in the box.
So somebody from the Afiya Center is on here, I believe, because I see Kiana, I saw Michelle. So if y'all can handle that for me, I would sure appreciate it.
And also, I'm going to say to you, ladies who are on this call, you feel her passion. I am 100% convinced that you heard something today that you had not heard or considered previously. I'm sure of it. And we can help her talk to more Black women. Everybody on this call is involved with an organization of some sort, and you need to get Marsha and Moji's information, and let's keep these women out in the public. So Marsha, hang tight. We're going to listen to Moji, and then we're going to open it up to questions from everybody. I'm almost emotional. Thank you so much. Okay. Hey, Miss Moji, how are you?
Oh, I'm well. Hi, I was so impassioned by listening to you, Marsha. Thank you so much.
Wait, I gotta tell them who you are.
You have to introduce me. Oh, okay. Do that.
So this is my first time meeting Moji, but her mother is she's on this call too. Where you at, Mom? We can spotlight you too. Everybody.
She's there. I saw her.
Where is she? Is she on camera?
No.
I am now. Here I am.
Okay, so let me bring her in just for the intro. You ain't staying with us. I'm just telling
Hey,
you.
Mom.
Hey, Moj.
So we live in the same building, and we were talking about this topic, and she said, you got to talk to my daughter. So Moji and I have spoken on the phone a few times, and I look forward to meeting you in person. But real quickly, so thank you. I said I always mess up everybody's name.
Isato.
Thank you. So
yeah.
Let me tell you all who Moji is, and she is also doing work in abortion, but from a different perspective than Marsha. So we're hearing from all sides today. Prior to joining Abortion Access Front, Moji worked in fashion advertising for several years. And while fashion remains a passion, she made the decision to bring her collaborative and creative vision to a place where she could make change. So in 2015, she joined Abortion Access Front. For the past 6 years, she has used her team building expertise to help organize and grow AAF's fight against patriarchy and anti-abortion extremism. She is currently boot on the ground at AAF, one of the hosts of the weekly YouTube show, Feminist Buzzkills Live. She speaks at rallies, she's doing counter protesting, volunteering at clinics, and when not in a pandemic, she is out on the road with the team raising hell. Somehow I can believe that. She loves yoga, reading, sci-fi by femme people and people of color. She roller skates, talking really loudly about her own abortion and all of our reproductive rights in public spaces. Moji is a graduate of Sarah Lawrence College and is currently having too much fun raising an adorable little feminist in Harlem. So thank you, Isa, for bringing her to me. And we're going to give her the screen so that she can talk to everybody, and just hang tight. And we're gonna have questions for everybody after the fact. So don't leave us, just hang out with us, please. So the floor is all yours, Ms. Moji.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for having me. When my mom brought it up to me, I was like, oh, you have to fight me not to talk about abortion. I love talking about abortion. I am currently the marketing manager at Abortion Access Front, like Helen said, which is an abortion rights advocacy organization. So we don't work with people having abortions, but we talk about all this legislation that Ms. Marsha brought up, where people don't know that laws are happening that affect each of us and our access. And we just don't know. The media doesn't cover it, or they cover it regionally. Speaking about like SB 8, which came up a few times when she talked, they passed it in June, but no one talked about it nationally until it went into effect in September. And so what we do is track this stuff, and we started a show called Feminist Buzzkills Live, where we try in a half hour to give people a summary, like, this is the things that are happening in your town, pay attention, get on it. And we like to talk with people who run practical supports. We like to talk to people who do abortions. We like to talk to pro-abortion comedians who just will give us funny perspectives of their abortion stories or whatever, and how it affects them. Because like I said, the media doesn't cover abortion. We find our stories because we comb through regional newspapers and are like, oh shoot, Arizona just did this. No one's talking about it. It's not in the New York Times. It's not in the Washington Post. It's in a small regional magazine by Arizona, and no one hears about it. So like I said, and of course I'm here because I'm an avid supporter of abortion rights. I'm terrified of where we are right now. I'm appalled. And it is in the way that abortion is going to be ideally on the ballot for people who believe in abortion rights. It's been on the ballot for anti-abortion people since 1973. And what we're seeing is a culmination of something that they've been working for. They're the ones who go to the ballot and they're like, I don't care about anything else. I'm voting against abortion. I don't care if it also means that I'm losing Medicaid. I don't care if it also means that we're not getting other supports we need. I am voting against abortion. And mostly it's white people, but it's also our people. And this is allowed to stand, and it's allowed for people to not fight against it because of the way we stigmatize abortion. I feel like Ms. Marsha talked a lot about how people have their abortion stories and they're valid and they're important to hear. But what happens is we don't talk about abortion. People who've had abortions, people who believe in abortions, we don't talk about abortion. I've always been an abortion supporter, and I had an abortion in my 20s. And a lot of my friends had abortions also when we were younger and even older. And what I found is we talked about it with each other, our circle of friends, but we don't talk about it with people who are not in our immediate circle. So when I started talking about my abortion with anyone who would listen, the circle of people I knew who had abortions, the stories I heard about abortions, it expanded exponentially. And then people felt important. They felt able to talk about their stories. They felt able to talk about it. They felt able to really like get into it. And like, you know, people have different feelings about abortion. People have different abortion stories. Most people in my life support abortions, had abortions, they don't regret. Some people do regret their abortions. That's part of life. I honor those people's stories also. But again, the idea that you can legislate against someone else's abortions or decide what someone else should be doing with their body is really arrogant and really rude and really unfair, and not helpful. So I'm a big believer that we should talk about our abortion stories. We should share them. We should share them with each other. And it really gives everyone a space and a freedom around it. Because they say right now, what is it? 1 in 4 women have abortions. Right now, that's 1 in 4. That means we look around, you know, I don't know who here has had abortions, but that's a quarter of us, in theory, have had abortions here. And like, can't we support each other and not shame and blame each other about the choices that we made for our lives, for our futures, for the world that we wanted, for the life that we wanted? You asked before about or you brought up before about just access for us. And truthfully, abortion is already inaccessible for so many people, and especially us. If you have money to fly to New York for the weekend, abortion is never going to be not accessible to you. But if you work at McDonald's and you can't get 3 days off to go somewhere to have an abortion, it's not accessible to you, even if there's a clinic near you. If you even have one in your town and you have a 3-day mandatory waiting period and you have to make 2 and 3 appointments for a 1-day appointment, and it's either that or lose your job, abortion's not acceptable to you. Fuck whatever Roe v. Wade is saying. And let's be clear, Roe v. Wade is on the chopping block right now. There's a Mississippi case right now that Supreme Court is thinking about. And if it goes the way that everyone thinks it's going, Roe v. Wade will be gutted. And based on what states have on the books this second, it's thought that half the states will lose the right to abortion. And when we're talking about losing the right to abortion, we're talking about people not being able to get their abortion, but we're also talking about other medical care being criminalized, right? We're talking about people being criminalized for having miscarriages, that each miscarriage becoming a reason for the state to get involved in your life and your health care. And it sounds like some dystopian future, but it's happening right now. In October, a woman was sentenced to 4 years in jail for a miscarriage, and she did methamphetamine. And so they were like, well, because you did that and you had a miscarriage, you are liable for manslaughter. We're there. It's happening in so many states. And as abortion is overall criminalized and overall outlawed in states, we're going to see more of that. And literally every pregnancy that doesn't end in live birth, or every pregnancy that ends in some sort of fetal injury, we're going to see, and mostly it's going to be us, because white women can afford really great lawyers to stop this. White women can afford excellent lawyers to keep these sort of ridiculous laws from getting them in jail. But mostly us, we can't afford that. And this is going to affect us. And so we really need to get on this and think not just about what your religion says about abortion, what you personally may think, and really think about what is it doing for our community to criminalize what is healthcare. Abortion is just a form of reproductive healthcare. And it's important to keep that in mind and really fight for that. I don't want to live in a world where we're criminalized for being pregnant, and I would hope you don't either. Again, we don't work with people individually. We just talk about the larger landscape of abortion. And the larger landscape of abortion right now is terrifying. That's mostly what I got to say.
Perfect. I'm going to bring Marsha back in. Thank you so much, because your passion was, you two ladies are both on fire, so I'm loving it. And I'm really excited to hear what other people are thinking. So I don't want to do all the talking, but I'm going to bring you back on. Okay, Marsha, you're back with us. So I just can't thank both of you enough. And I think you bounced good off of each other. So that was great. Ms. Gibbons, did you want to ask your question?
Yeah, I do. It's two. Because I'm finding that white women only show up for Black women when they want us to help them get something that they want. So, and maybe you can explain this because they don't understand it clearly. Apparently, Medicaid, I think this is right, does not pay for abortions. And the white women really aren't putting up a fight about that because it doesn't really affect them as much as it does us. And they don't want to fight for that and then jeopardize some of the other things that they get for funding for other places. So I don't know much about that, and maybe you could talk about it. And the other thing that we haven't talked about, is pro-choice is fine. I'm good with that. But at what point do we start thinking about how far along an unborn child is, and when there's a point when maybe we shouldn't consider having an abortion? So those are my two questions.
I want to jump in, and I'm sure Marsha will have more anecdotal information from people who've had abortions, but federally, Medicaid does not cover abortion. Some states, Medicaid will cover abortion, like New Jersey, and I forget if New York does, but some do. Also, I think that when we talk about limits to abortion, like when is too late, how do you know when is too late for which person? I think that later abortion is not actually something that statistically is very, very common. And often when it happens because the pregnant person couldn't figure out money for their abortion. There is some sort of fetal issue that makes it incompatible with life or something that is outside of the pregnant person's capacity. There's a million reasons why people have later abortions, but most of them happen before 15 weeks. But there are a million reasons why I wouldn't. And I don't know if I'm comfortable saying when we should stop.
Yeah, so I wanted to go back and like jump on that white girls don't get involved in stuff. And so here's the thing, and we talk about it all the time at the Afiya Center. When it's this abortion, like we go to our Senate meetings here in Texas, right? We're there because all of these things impact us, right? But when the abortion bills come up, you can't find seating room. But you can shoot a buckshot gun through the room when we're there trying to get them to sit in the space with us around maternal mortality. Can I get their asses to get up and come down there to do stuff as it relates to maternal mortality? Do we call them? I don't typically call people out, but I do call them out. Do we call them out on that? Yes, we do. But do they really care? No, at the end of the day, because they don't feel as though that they're impacted by that. We are seeing some kind of movement in it right now, because not only are we calling them out, we're also calling funders out. No, you don't get to let this happen. But no, they're not there with us on this. They're not there. Yeah, they marching in the streets when George Floyd gets killed or whatever. But at the end of the day, again, that's just something that on some level they benefit from. So as it relates to this movement work, no, it is not even. It is not equitable. It is not any of that. They are not standing in those places with us. They're not testifying around the importance of expanding Medicaid for 1 full year and not 6 months, when the data clearly says that expanding Medicaid for 1 full year will decrease maternal mortality for Black folk. They're not fighting with us as we're trying to shut down the state of Texas wanting to pay doula $75 for 4 visits for a woman to care for a expecting person. No, they're not there, but now everybody is here. We marching 100,000 miles right now. And don't get me wrong, we're out there doing it too. But no, it's not. It is not. They're not there. They are not there. As it relates to that's the only one I wanted to touch, because the Medicaid thing and all of that, because we know how the Hyde Amendment. The Hyde Amendment impacts folk getting government assisted insurances from paying for abortions. But that's most government, so if you work for the government and all these kinds of things. But even at that, the Hyde Amendment harm non-white women more than it harm anybody else. But it's not equitable at all. A lot of times, I had said this to Helen earlier, it is so long doing this work. As a Black woman doing this, there are so many times that I find myself in this fight alone, because the white girls are fighting for what they're fighting for. But we're fighting for Black women across the board, and they're impacted by all of these things.
Moji, do you feel in the work that you do, considering that it's not a Black women's organization, do you feel that you have access? Do you feel isolated from, helping Black women, or how do you have any feelings about?
Oh, are you talking to me?
Yes.
Oh, well, I work for a white-led organization, but they like to think that they like Black women. And so they talk a lot about centering Black women and letting the movement be led by Black women. They do. These are the things that they say. But if you look at my organization, there are 2 of us.
In New York. Are you in Harlem as well?
I'm in Harlem. Our organization isn't in Harlem. In COVID, we're scattered. We're all remote. But there are 2 of us.
Understood. And
also, I was thinking about what you were saying about marches and rally. I know when they did some women's march thing on October 2nd, I distinctly saw that in Dallas, a Black women's organization was invited and then sort of regulated to the back. They were like, oh, can y'all just be quiet and stay back there? We just need Black bodies in attendance, but we don't need you guys to say the things you say or be too Black about it. It's very
and I'm proud to say our folk took over that rally. The Afiya Center, a couple of them are on this page, on here right now. They were like, oh, hell no, not again. And I was in DC, but they did that thing.
See, and that's why I wanted us to have this conversation, because I think in most things, you know, they want us to be in the numbers, but they really don't want to hear our voices. And as long as we're quiet, we give room for a lot of assumptions to be made. So it's important for us to step up, right? And I'm going to put this out there. You can answer it or not answer it. In this whole right to life and fight for babies and what have you, do you think that white supremacy plays a role in that at all? I mean,
1000%. And they co-opt the language of civil rights and empowerment. They co-opt it and then they use it against us in these anti-abortion movements. Also, I'm at the rally, I'm at a clinic sometimes facing these white supremacists who are the people saying baby lives matter in lieu of Black lives matter. And they will straight up look you in your face and be like, the most dangerous place for a Black baby is a Black womb. Like, that is a reasonable thing to say to a human being. I have heard that every single time I've been in front of an anti-abortion activist.
It is that statement that that introduced Trust Black Women. It is because not only do they say it, they have their billboards across the country with that on there. And so, and that's where, you know, Sister Song and all these amazing women, and they came up with Trust. It's a whole campaign, Trust Black Women, because we know what's best for us, but just trust Black women. And it just is just a powerful statement. But the fact that we have to even say, trust Black women, you know,
at my job, our managing director does track white supremacists. She tracks the people that were at the January 6th rally. And a lot of those people are the exact same people we see standing in front of abortion clinics, harassing people who are trying to have abortion. They are the same people. It's literally the Venn diagram is a circle.
Yeah.
So white supremacy is 100% in the anti-abortion movement.
There's a couple things that come to mind. One, so when I said what I said about the white supremacy, I believe, and maybe I'm small-minded or what have you, I've always believed that, you know, if the push behind the pro-life thing, yes, is some based on religion, but I think if you wanted to abort Black babies all day long, nobody really cares. It's about
they'd have abortion clinics in our damn back room.
Yeah, I think it's about, you know, white folks realizing that they are going to be in the minority and whatever they have to do. And that's why, you know, what woman, and white women do this, so what woman would advocate that a woman should give life to a child that's a product of incest or rape or, you know, because she's poor and she can't afford it? Like, who does that? Because it's about bringing the babies here. But on another note, Marsha, you talked about Black women not supporting you and wanting to shut you down. And, you know, can you talk a little bit more about that? I can't even imagine the pain that came with that.
I'm going to tell you, that pain was so severe that I remember sitting in my office one night, and I was there by myself, and I had been told by my security, you're not supposed to be at this office by yourself or whatever. But I just needed some time. And I was sitting in my office and I'm just reading all of these things, and I'm going through emails. And I don't know, I started crying, and I said, I didn't start this organization to hurt Black women. And if me taking this stand is going to hurt Black women, I was prepared to call the marketing folk or whatever and ask them to take that billboard down. Because it just seemed like I was, you know, like people were not hearing what it was we were trying to say. And it was taking the value away from the work that we do. And it was just devastating for me. And I don't even know if I ever shared this with our whole team. I was like, one email literally, from taking that billboard down. One email from saying I can step away from this abortion work, even though I'm not going to be able to do any other work, because you see, they don't give me money to work for Black women living with HIV. They don't do any of that. So I don't know what we're going to do. But what I absolutely know I could not do was be a part of hurting Black women. And so we didn't, two things happened. One, I got an email from a young Black woman who let me know she ain't gonna tell her story. I'm not gonna hear from her no more, but she had an abortion, first generation kid to go to college. And she had an abortion when she was a freshman. And she had never, so I'm not in the sorority and things, so I didn't know how powerful this statement was until I told somebody. It's like, what? And she did it in this order. She said, I never shared it with my sorors. I never shared it with my best friend. And I never shared it with my husband. I'm on all of these deeply faith-rooted Facebook pages, and I have to do my screen black so I can sit and cry, because I can't get in the conversation, but I can't go against the conversation. She said, because for the first time in all those years, you gave me the language that I needed to move my life forward. And I think I'm going to be able to tell my husband, I don't know yet, but I have two amazing boys. We have an amazing life. And she told me that, and that I'm really blubbering now, because I'm like, for that one, I'll keep that billboard up for 60 days. And another a Black woman I spoke with, she was out of California, and she and I had the opportunity, and we talked on the phone, and we talked for almost an hour. And she left the call, not convinced that abortions was right for Black people, but definitely convinced that we should support the work that's happening around the world. And we should hear the voices of the people. And we should see what we can do, to better help the outcomes of Black women's lives, and opposed to attacking folk who are doing what they do. So yes, and I see Black women, I go to Planned Parenthood, fundraisers and stuff, because they always invite me. I sure don't pay for no ticket. If they don't give me down free, I don't go. I go to Annie's List, not going to her stuff. They stuff free either. Give me a ticket, I'll go. It's time to get cute. But I see them there. But I can't get these same women who I see donating to Planned Parenthood, who I see they be at the Planned Parenthood rallies at the state of Texas. But we can't get them to come to the Afiya Center's rallies. We can't get them to come.
Imagine how that is.
It is like, it tears at my heart.
But I think I don't know how women, whether it's sororities or churches, I don't know how they hear you and don't support what you're doing. So that's something that we need to help Marsha with.
We have to talk to each other about it. The same thing I tell white girls when they're talking, when that man got in office and all white girls want me to come speak at their stuff. Like, what do we do now, Marsha? I said, honey, tell you something. It's November. You got Thanksgiving. You got Christmas. Some of y'all think you woke. You got Kwanzaa, and you got New Year's. You need to get your people together. Yeah. You need to talk to your people, and that's what we need to do, y'all. And I start saying that about us. I used to always say this about white people, but you know what I'm saying now, y'all? We need to talk to our people. We need to talk to the women in our communities. We need to talk to the women in our circle. We need to do what you did, Moji. We need to talk about these experiences so that folk will know that it's safe to talk about. We need to talk to our people.
That's true. That was very powerful coming from Moji, because even in putting this together, I've heard from some people who just getting the email made them revisit their own situations. And I've actually invited some young people on this call. I'm not going to call them out, but I wanted to, somebody saying they can barely hear me. Can you guys hear me?
Your sound is not so great.
Oh, really? Oh, well, you guys need to tell me that before now. Okay, let me see. I'm not sure what's happening, but I'll work on that. But, so I'll talk louder for right now. But yeah, so we need to definitely help Marsha and Moji. But Moji, you're telling your story. I think it's true. More of us need to be able to say what our experience has been and stop internalizing a shame. It's nothing to be shameful. And when you put it in the terms of healthcare, it's healthcare.
We also need to, in the way that Ms. Marsha is saying, is decenter Planned Parenthood, right? Because people would stay, like, I feel like even my friends white and Black, who want to do something. They're like, I donate to Planned Parenthood. I'm like, find an abortion fund, find a Black woman-led fund, find another place to put your money. A, Planned Parenthood doesn't do that many abortions. And B, like, who really needs the help are abortion funds, like places like the Afiya Center that are really doing reproductive justice work, that are helping more people and helping the people that need to be helped. Planned Parenthood is a multi-million-dollar organization. They're fine.
They're just fine.
They're just fine.
Is that volume better, everybody?
Yes.
Oh, I had a, sorry, that was my mistake. So Linda has a question, but I wanted to, Miss Seymour, your hand has been up for a moment, so we're gonna go to Simone and Linda and Jennifer, and we'll take it from there. So go ahead, Miss Seymour.
Good evening, everybody. And I just want to thank our two presenters because having lived in New York all my life, to now learn what life is like for women in Texas is truly eye-opening. Because in New York, it is not difficult to find a Planned Parenthood center to obtain an abortion. And there's so many other places that you can get access to. So learning now about the plight in Black women, understanding, one, that they're not even getting educated in school about health, that's really where, not to say that I'm against or for abortion. As a mother of three, I've had to make that choice to have an abortion. And it wasn't an easy choice, but again, I understand that for me, it was what was needed at the time for my life. Yet what I do think needs to happen, and I think Ms. Marsha does that with her program, is the education that needs to go along with not just letting women know that you have this right, but how to now maintain your body, your vessel, so that way you're not putting yourself in situations, because although you have the right to end this pregnancy, you're still doing something internally inside of you. So and what I find most disheartening being a high school teacher and seeing the teenage girls that I'm dealing with in my predominantly Black and brown community is that they truly think of abortion as a form of birth control, where you are having young teenage girls having 2 and 3 abortions before they get out of high school, not understanding the damage that they're doing internally into their bodies, because they just think that it's okay and it's fine to do. We need a lot more education on how to take care of our bodies. And that also goes back to the disparity in the healthcare aspect, because if we're not being educated on our bodies, then we don't know how to take care of our bodies. So hopefully some of these organizations will start looking at the long-term impact. Yes, you have the right to choose what to do for your body, but also make sure that we're starting to educate our young ladies on what it is that they need to preserve their vessels, so that when they are ready and wanting and willing to have children, that they can have it successfully. Because we have that high mortality rate among women of color when they're pregnant, simply because they're not getting the health care that they need pre, during, and post partum. And that's what's going on. So there's so much education that we need to have in our communities. I thank you both for what you're doing, because it's definitely something that is needed, that our community needs to be educated in so many variety of ways. And we do have that, like Ms. Marsha said, like she goes and you have all these white women talking about, oh, this, and this, but you're not understanding what we as women of color need. So it's quite easy for someone to talk about, oh, well, abortion is murder, and then they're doing this and it's against God and all of those things. Nobody has a right to judge anyone. So we all have to walk that walk. And when we get to the Creator, whoever it is that we decide to worship, whenever we get there, whatever that happen is, we can give our plea at that point in time. But we definitely have to be more compassionate and understand why people are making these choices. But for those that are, in some aspects, I guess, abusing the ability, especially here in New York, being so easy to do, that we really need to educate our young girls so that way they understand how to protect, as I stated, their vessels for their future and not just look at, oh, I'm going to get my groove on because it feels good. If I get pregnant, I just take a pill or I just have an abortion and keep going back doing the same destructive patterns. So there's a lot of education that needs to be done with our teenagers. I can understand a grown woman. You know, you have children, you don't want any more, you don't need any more, you can't afford any more. But the challenge that I'm seeing as a high school teacher are my teenage girls having 2, 3, and sometimes even more abortions because they just think of it as a form of birth control and not understanding what the damage is that they're doing to their reproductive system. So again, thank you.
I agree that education is very important, but lots of people have multiple abortions and then go on to have healthy pregnancies. And I think my abortion rights holds for people to use abortion as a form of birth control if they want to. If it's not for you, then by all means don't. And also, even if you use, no birth control is fully is 100%. And a lot of people do use birth control and have multiple failures and need multiple abortions. And I think that for me personally, I just stand in abortion rights, and that is the right to have abortion by whatever standard works for you. And I agree that education has a place and is so important, and we're undereducated. Our children are undereducated. We are undereducated. I feel like I work in abortion, and just 2 years ago, I said something way off about the abortion pill. And I think I just heard it, I ran with it. We always are welcome for more information and more to find out, but multiple abortions are not the problem. Lack of education is always a problem.
And even in abortions, there's misses. And she's not on here, so I won't call her name. But in 2019, my assistant decided to take her vacation when I took my vacation. And I found out later that she was taking her vacation because she was going to have an abortion, right? She's a full-grown woman, making an informed decision by herself. And then COVID happened, and then we didn't see each other. And I did see her, at a family funeral, and I was like, "Ooh, she's real pregnant. Somebody's gonna have to take her job while she's a few months." But here's the thing about that: she didn't even realize, she didn't even know she's pregnant. It was like she was living her whole life. She was living her best life because guess what? She had gotten an abortion in December, between December, the end of December and the beginning of January. Yeah, we got a little boy running around here that's about 2.5 years old. And so. Yeah, sis. And so,
we all are ready to learn.
And so my point is, and then just a couple of days ago, sometimes I still look at the emails that come in, and our abortion coordinator, she was saying that there was a woman who had an abortion, I guess it didn't work. And so she's gonna have to go back to the clinic. Here's the caveat though, if she's more than six weeks or whatever, she's in Texas, we're probably going to have to pay for her to go to another whole state just to get another pill, because she's still within that frame where she only needs to take a pill. So nothing is absolute or whatever. And it didn't change the fact that my assistant never wanted to be a parent. Never wanted to be a parent. So she has to grieve that as she learned to parent a child that she was not preparing for. So there's so many pieces to this, I've since then found out that this happened more than we think. And here's the thing, y'all, it happened to Black women more than anybody else because there's a couple of phone calls that should happen after you have the abortion to make sure that some things are happening, to make sure that it took place. I don't know what those things are, but anyway, fewer Black women get their call back than do white women. So we've kind of integrated that into our stuff, I think, where we check on them a couple of days after they've had the procedure.
Go ahead. Nana, can you help me with questions in the chat? I'm sure I'm missing stuff.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
Helen, I can go?
Yes.
Okay, well, never had kids, never had an abortion, but I did do the run from Douglas College to Spring Valley, New York. Which was the only place you can get an abortion in 1972, with young ladies whose parents had invested a lot in them. If their parents had found out that they were pregnant, it was done. Just real quick informational, then I ask a question. Thank you, ladies, so much for the information. The informational stuff, just bear with me. I'm a former professor, so I got to do this. All right, first of all, the right comes out of the 9th Amendment of the Constitution, which is a penumbra, like a catch-all, like your job, you know, in your job description, it says, and anything else you can do. Well, basically the Ninth Amendment says that in order for us to have a democracy, you got to have a right to privacy. That's first. Second, the same right that gives the right or gave the right, or I know it's in question now, is also the same right that allows police, especially in New York, where they don't have to talk to anybody for 48 hours because of that same right to privacy. They can shoot somebody and not talk to anybody for 48 hours because of that same right to privacy that's supposed to protect women's right to make a decision. So I just want to, you know, to throw that out. The other thing, just real quick, in case anybody wants to know for more information, you can go to cspan.org, actually hear the Roe case being argued. I would also add that one of the two women who argued that case actually had an abortion. And if she didn't have an abortion at that time, she would have been kicked out of college and never be appearing before the Supreme Court of the United States. Not that that's a good thing or bad thing, it's just for informational purposes. So I just wanted to give people that so they can hear the case themselves. The other thing for Marsha particularly, you know, you guys may want to look at the whole right to privacy and how it protects police officers, right? So, because the argument seems to be, we're not going to protect women, we're not going to fund those people who need to have the financial support to get this done. But we're going to fund the attorneys, we're going to fund police officers and give them the right to have this right to privacy. So I just wanted to throw that out. Something to look at in terms of some strategy. I'm not sure how you could use it, but I wanted to say that. No, I'm a big civics person. I'm coming to the close. I'm a big civics person, and I would encourage you, and you know, looking at the population you serve, it may be a little difficult, but if you can put a civics component there in terms of educating your constituency so they can help you leverage whatever resources you need so you can help them. Something to look at. We could talk later. You can contact me. I'm a really big civics person. The other thing is my question, but I wanted to get that all out, is that, you know, I was listening to you, particularly about Black women, that you know, not receive the kind of support that you probably expected, at least because they were Black women. And so the question is, do you think that corporate media's shaping public perception is causing you to have some of the difficulty that you're having?
Yeah, so I think it's that. I think it's corporate. I think how the media is and how that narrative sometimes. And I also think that it has a lot to do with our religious folk, with that base, and how it's talked about over the pulpit and places like that. So I think, yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. I just wanted to add that. But I wanted to say something about the right to privacy thing. Thank you for bringing that to our attention, because I don't know if you know, but right now in Texas, if we assist someone in getting abortion past that time frame, just any Joe Schmo anywhere can sue us for $10,000. Whether they can prove it or not, they can just sue us. And so that kind of, I don't even know where that's falling in the argument that our attorneys are having the right for privacy and all that. And I'm just going to go back and look at some of the stuff because I hadn't even thought about that. And the civics component is so right. Thank you so very much. I'm going to reach out to you, but yeah.
Helen can give you my information. She knows I just love civics because it's not the end all. It's not going to, you know, do everything, but in terms of educating your constituency for purposes of helping you help them, I think it's important that every nonprofit do it, but particularly yours. And you know, I'm running for office, but I can always take time to do my little civics thing. So if you call me, you want to do a Zoom, I'd be more than happy to do it.
Okay.
Where are you running for office? Because I like to know where Black women are running.
Oh, I'm actually running the city of Newark, New Jersey. I'm running for council at large, which is for the whole city. Normally people who seek that position are looking to be mayor. I'm not looking to be mayor. I just retired from the college. Actually, you know, it's a legislative position, and these are the people who determine how our tax money is going to be spent. So I'm running so I can inform people, and I'm not, I told people I'm not going to promise you anything other than the fact I'm going to teach you what your power is so you can use it.
That's it.
And keep us all accountable.
Helen can definitely not hear you at all.
Oh, she can't? Oh, then I can keep.
No, I can't hear Helen.
That was because you can hear me better now, right? I put on the headpiece.
I see you now.
Okay, I was muted.
Thank
And
you.
Linda, yeah, I will definitely put you and Marsha in touch. That'll be great. I want to know, Jennifer had her hand up. She's put her hand down.
I'm still interested.
She's
Okay,
still there.
I purposely invited young folks to come to this call, and I see that some elders are here. Because can we talk about that too? Because in getting ready for this, I came back to who can forget the days where if you got pregnant in high school, you had to leave school. You couldn't, the girl had to leave school and go to, I don't know, pregnant school or whatever. And then you hear people who say that they made the girls go to night school, right? But they couldn't go to regular school during the day because, I don't know, you were contagious and somebody else might get pregnant by sitting next to you. I don't know why. And then you hear about people who sent their kid, so-and-so went down south and, she came back, she didn't have a baby. Like nobody even never knew you were pregnant. And how about the women, the girls who had to go before the church and beg for forgiveness? Not the boy, just the girl. So I know that there are women on this call who remember those days. And if you're comfortable talking about it, I would love to have you jump in this conversation as well. And my young people who are on this call, what are you all thinking? What's happening with your girlfriends? And, we had Miss Gibbons who talked about teenagers, and I don't think anybody's on this call who's a teenager, but some of us are not far removed from being in high school. We're still in college or just fresh out of college. Like, what's happening in your world? Are you all having these conversations? I was doing research and I recognized that the rate for abortion has gone down in the country, but not so much for Black women. So who's getting abortions? And I also think we should talk about the numbers. I saw the numbers for Black women, which were all over the place, so I don't know what's real. But I saw one report that said that as many as 649 Black babies are aborted daily. I don't know if that's true. And I see Marsha's face, but and reason I'm saying I don't know it's true because I saw other numbers. The numbers were just all over the place. And of course, I'm not in the field because you need to consider the source. But one report did come from CDC, but the CDC was very clear that not all states were reporting. So I can't, so it's something that we may or may not need to talk to. So I see both of y'all looking like, Helen, go ahead, Marsha, say whatever's on your mind.
No, I had already told you I don't even deal with those numbers, but it doesn't even make sense, come on, 650 something.
I mean, I also want to say 600 divided by 50 is 12 abortions per state per day, maybe.
650,000.
Oh, 1,000.
Yeah.
So
you did say 649,000, right?
No. I said 649 per day, which comes out.
Oh, okay. I'm good with that.
Yeah. 1,200 per day, 12 per day per state.
So it would be 230.
I'm good with that.
So like 237,000 more or less for the year. And then I thought, God, this could be really interesting because, what are the numbers of live births that Black women are giving? And, we're 13% of the population, but we're 35% of the abortion. So these are things that we need to just know for information, I think.
I mean, also, I feel like when you look at these numbers, it's like, are you taking everything into account? Like what? Okay, like the numbers that you need for me to care about them is more numbers than just like, 600 per day in the country. What is it? 12 per day per state averaging? Sounds reasonable. And then when you think of how many people there are, like if you just look at the basic numbers, 1 in 4, yeah, that makes sense. And like, I don't know. I think that every person who has an abortion for the reasons that they need an abortion. And so I don't think that abortion is marketed to people. I think people have abortions because they need abortions. I think obviously on occasion people are coerced into abortions, but that is usually because of a terrifying situation that they're in. But that's not the bulk of abortions. Most people I know who've had abortions, everyone I know who had an abortion had it because they wanted to. I've had some people who had partners who encouraged them aggressively, but never to but fundamentally it was still their choice. And truthfully, that's the correlation of my friends who regret their abortion. The people who were like, my partner really wasn't ready for me to have a child and I wasn't sure, and we had an abortion and now I'm not sure. So I think that people should be able to powerfully make decisions on their own about what they want to do with their body. And that is sometimes parenting, and that is sometimes abortion. Also, I saw something in the chat that I just want to talk to. Someone brought up adoption. And adoption is a choice people make, but adoption is a parenting decision, not a pregnancy decision. And abortion is a pregnancy decision. And just having a baby and giving up for adoption is not an alternative to abortion.
Okay. Marsha, did you want to say something?
I definitely agree with that. We've had situations where women have said, you know, don't necessarily want an abortion, or but I don't have anybody that will adopt. What I do know is that I don't want to parent, you know, and so it definitely, I'm listening to that different. It's definitely a parenting decision. I absolutely do not want to adopt. I do not want to parent. I would do adoption. And there's a lot of stipulations to that. Like, absolutely, it's born, take it, buy, detach, gone about my business. Don't call me, no 18 years later, you know, and none of that. And so for people like that, an abortion is really the option. That's a good option for them, because here's the thing. This is just something that they don't want to happen in their lives. Now, if that did happen, are there folk willing to adopt? Because what we can't always take a chance on is our children being dropped into this system, right? Because it don't always work out to the best. They don't always get to be adopted by Black folk. And I know some people have an issue with that, and I'm not trying to offend anybody, but they don't always get to be adopted by Black folk. It is harder for Black folk to adopt. It may not be hard for white same gender loving folk to adopt, but it is extremely difficult for Black same gender loving folk to adopt. And then that kind of depends on what state that you live in. It's extremely difficult in Texas. So there's so many things around the adoption thing. It's just not that cut and dry, but you know.
Further deterioration.
Okay. Somebody was talking.
Also, I want to go back to this idea of people going away when they're pregnant. You know, Texas, what's old is new again. And just a few months ago, there was an article where some white evangelical woman was basically trying to set up a camp for pregnant people to go to and have babies. Like, they don't have any new ideas, just old, stupid ideas that they rehash.
Yeah. I'm hoping that somebody will talk about, you know, having the whole church thing where the young lady had to get up and beg for forgiveness. But
I did.
But that's Cicely Tyson's story.
Yeah, I did. I did. Me,
right.
Marsha Jones. I had to get up before my church and say I'm sorry.
Exactly.
Got to sit in the pulpit.
That's right. That was a common story.
Yeah.
You get pregnant, you go in front of the church and you ask for forgiveness. And it was probably the preacher man that impregnated you. But, you know, this is something that, like I wrote a comment, stay connected with faith-based organizations and always share your knowledge and information about abortion and maternal health care. Don't let these people push you away from faith-based organizations. Be that loud, those loud negative voices. People in that church need to know there's someone here who's knowledgeable. There's someone here who can help me with information. And it wasn't like a big bulletin that said, contact Brenda Brown, but it was those little old ladies who would say, here, you go talk to this lady. You go and, you know, so we can't let these faith-based people push us away. We have to stay connected with the people, with our information and knowledge.
That's a good point, because a lot of this faith-based money, people don't want to risk losing faith-based money, which dictates what they can and cannot do in our communities. So that's a good point, Brenda. Thank you for sharing. Marsha, you said that you were actually that teenage girl who had to go before the...
Child, I was like, so here's the thing. I was a church baby, right? So I was teaching everybody at 14 and 15 years old. I was teaching mission and all that. Then I messed around and got pregnant. And but we were both teenagers, but he was a little young, as they call it in the South, a little young jackleg preacher, you know.
Bootleg.
Yeah, bootleg preacher, and I got pregnant. And not only did I have to come up before the church, I had to come before the church. I couldn't be the church. I couldn't teach Sunday school anymore. Couldn't be the Sunday school secretary. I couldn't do anything. But he lost absolutely no privileges. He was still allowed to sit in the pulpit. He was still allowed to preach on Youth Sunday. He was still allowed to sing in the choir. He was still allowed to go to the National Baptist Convention. Everything. He lost absolutely no privilege. But I lost everything, and I was embarrassed. And they didn't call his name.
Oh,
That's
wow.
right. That's right.
So people didn't know who the father was?
Well, everybody knew who the father was, but I'm just saying.
Oh, they
Everybody
still
knew I
call
was
it
They
out.
pregnant.
call it from the pulpit.
But you
Right, they
you
didn't
were
have to
the
make me go before the church to see I was pregnant. So
right.
they knew I was pregnant, so they knew it was him. But it's just the thing that
The
happened.
shame.
But I did make a promise to myself that, that wasn't going to keep happening if I was going to keep going to that church. And also that particular pastor that we had at that time, his wife, she was livid when that happened. And she was so angry. And when I came back, I didn't get to go to the convention, but she did. I was like, she's going to be teaching Sunday school. She's going to do everything. And y'all not going to do anything to her. If she got to stop, his ass got to come down too. And so eventually that stopped happening in my church. But yeah, it literally, I was.
So I'm hoping somebody's on here, I'm not involved in the church. Like, when did that stop? Like, why, when did it become, because nobody does that anymore. Like, what happened that
Of
made?
course, they
there are
still
churches
do
where
it.
they still have.
It still happens.
Uh-huh.
Not only does it happen in the church, it happens in other places as well. You
Mhm.
are a sinner. You're dirt. You're garbage.
But wait,
You're nobody. Of course, it still happens.
Okay, I'm out of touch then. I didn't realize.
And I
that this
still, and I had to come, I
churches-
couldn't go back to the drill team. Even
Yeah.
though I had him in the summer, I couldn't be back on the drill team.
You have Cecily Tyson's story, because the same thing happened with her, with the church, with the school. She had to, oh yeah. And when I was a young girl today at 75, listening to you, these are the same stories I heard when I was a young girl. And it was difficult. And we'd use clothes hangers and put quinine in water and sit in it and thinking this is gonna, it was a terrible, dangerous time. And in today's society, I meet a lot of the women who did abort, and they're okay. They made it through it. And we just need to support women, and we need to give money, and we just don't walk away from these organizations. You be that silent voice. So when those little old ladies say, go talk to Brenda Brown, because they know the information I'm going to share with you.
Wow, thank you, Brenda. That was powerful. Also from Binghamton, we have Miss Jennifer Kirkland. Thank you, Brenda. Don't leave us.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Brenda.
I've been waiting to hear from Brenda.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Jennifer, where'd you go? I want to hear from you now. Jennifer.
Okay. Yes, my what I wanted to say to Marsha was that I hear your passion and what you do. You almost brought tears to my eyes. But my question is, have you ever, those people that oppose you, have you ever offered them to sit down at the round table and express what you do every day? Talk about the women that you serve every day. And do you think something like that, inviting them to a round table and honestly, express to them your feelings and talk about, the people that you're helping, would that change their perspective? Would that help? Because after hearing you, for me, I think that every woman has a right to make a decision for their body because it's their body, right?
Somebody asked what was at the bottom. Is stop politicizing my punani.
Is that what it says?
I like it. I like it. And also, when it comes to the church,
I love being a Black woman every day, all day.
Go on, Helen, and that's true. I think that they're hypocrites because the Creator says, "Thou shalt not judge." Also, the Creator gave us a right to choose. You know what I mean? The decision you make is your own, and just like the previous caller said, That's between you and your maker. And when you meet your maker, that's them. It's not up to us as the public to decide, you know, what I should do or you should do, because what you eat don't make me poop. So, you know, that's basically how I see that. You know what I'm saying? But to both of you ladies, you're doing a phenomenal job. And Moji, I love the name. I said in your mother's name, amazing. It's a beautiful thing to
Say
see
it again
sisters.
for me,
You know
Jennifer,
what I'm saying?
because I'm horrible with names. I'm so bad with names.
Emoji, right?
No,
Just
we got
Moji.
I got
Moji, Alawode-El.
Emoji. So I said it wrong, but anyway, I like people who are real, and you know, that's how I see you. Like, you just have your passion, you put it out there. Like Brenda make me a little nervous. Brenda, you know I'm from upstate too. I met you before, Brenda. I'm right here in Johnson City, freezing.
She just asked
so.
about you this
okay.
morning.
Okay, it's freezing and snow. But I'm proud of you, sisters. God bless you for the work that you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing. And by all means, I'm going to do my best to support both of you any way I can.
Please.
Thank
and
you.
I need you ladies to be very clear with these women in the audience how we can support you.
Definitely.
I'm going to go to Naja, and but then we're going to start wrapping this up because we get kind of long-winded here. And I'm trying to be more disciplined. Thank you,
But
Jennifer.
I wanted to say, I know that Jennifer, you directed your question to Marsha, but I want to say that I personally am way too busy to try to change the minds of people who don't believe in abortion. I want to talk to people who, because we do have the numbers, so I want to talk to the people who do and just are silent. But I'm like, I don't have the time or energy. If you really feel the way you do, if you're going to fight me about it, I'm not interested.
But I think sometimes that opportunity just to hear both sides can make a difference. You understand? Sometimes but I understand your perspective, and I understand exactly what you're saying. But I just, sometimes you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised how.
So, and the reason I would push back on that, Moji, is because of what we do here every Sunday. There are women on this call who would never have sat down for this conversation. And I believe in hearing what both of you all had to say, I'm going to go as far to say most women on this call are going to either get something new that they didn't know before, or they're going to change their perspective on something. So I do this thing every Sunday because I believe in the value of conversation. And, you know, people say, oh, it's just all talk, but what's your action? Conversation is action, because it piques another thought, because it moves you to somewhere else. And I understand. So now, am I going to pull my hair out? No. But am I going to give you some food? And maybe, you know, you don't eat it from me today, but then 2 months from now, and you hear it somewhere else. At some point, it has to have an impact on you.
I will clarify that this conversation is with people who are ready to have this conversation. Mm-hmm. But I spend time outside of clinics with people who are like, I spend my Saturdays coming to this clinic to harass people who are trying to access medical care. Yeah. And what I'm not going to do with them is talk about how abortion is a human right.
Well, this is true.
So
that's different.
I was going to answer. Mm-hmm. I was going to answer it at the end when we were closing, but I did want to say this. So I think it's both. So like you, Moji, I don't spend a lot of time trying to convince folk, but I do spend a lot of time having conversation with folk. I had already said in my mind, because I had such bad experiences sometimes with Black women, I was like, I'm not going to argue, I'm not going to fight. I don't fight Black women. I don't do that. And I definitely don't do it in a public forum. And so I'm going to give this information and I'm going to sit down, you know, and so that. But here's the thing, the talking, yes, Jennifer, we do create opportunities where we have the opportunity to talk. We're going to do it in May. We're having a whole Texas Black Women Rise Up Summit. We have one every 2 years, but we do it in between time too. But I'll get that information to Helen, because we would love to have people at our summit, because we're going to center womb holders this time. So we do that. But also with the convincing and the talking, one of my board chairs, she's my pastor's wife. She's like, I don't believe in abortion, Marsha, this is that. And all these people sitting around getting these abortions, and my daughter can't even have a baby or whatever. And it's just like, and when she said that particular thing, I just really looked at her. My daughter can't even have abortions, and all these people having, my daughter can't even have a baby, and all these people having abortion. You know what? I could have said to her, and what does that have to do with your daughter? I don't care how many abortions people have, and they got Nothing to do with your daughter's womb. But I didn't. And I just looked at her when she said that and went on in church. And because we were standing on the outside talking. And a couple of weeks later, she was like, yeah, I thought about what I said. She said, that was real stupid, wasn't it? But here's the thing. I wasn't trying to convince her. I kept doing what I was doing. We remained very close. She's my board co-chair now. She is our biggest supporter. When we put that billboard up about abortions and self-care, she called me. She was so angry that people were so ignorant. She's like, I don't want to, and I'm like, you need to calm down because you're driving down the highway. They just ignorant. They're this and they're that. She's our biggest supporter. When I tell you our biggest supporter, I didn't fight her. I didn't throw a Bible at her. I didn't throw it back at her. She didn't throw it at me. She didn't get it. And I let her get it. I didn't try to convince her. I let her get it. So that's why I say it's both things.
Thank you. Good point. Good point.
Thank you. Thank you.
Naja, how are you, my dear? Welcome.
Hello, everybody. I'm grateful to be here to listen. I don't know if I'm the youngest, but I find like a lot of times I am the youngest, which I love anyway. I love being around women, no matter what the conversation is. I'm a student of Linda Carter, or was, she retired. But so I'm always invited and I love to come. This conversation is really, really important and I'm glad to be a part of it. I was listening. I had to run to put my clothes in a dryer and I had to run back. I was like, I want to get in this conversation before it ends. So the first time I've heard about an abortion, I was like in the 6th grade and I went to a very private Islamic school in New Jersey. And the first time I heard of it was from a classmate of mine. I had to be in the 6th grade. She was in the 8th or 9th. And she let us know that she had an abortion. And which was very, very mind-blowing for us in Islamic schools, very sheltered children. And she, was very, very young, got it done. And that was my first time I heard about it from someone else. And around that same time, my mother got pregnant at 46. And it was very, very hard for her because every day, really, she was getting news from the doctor how the child was not developing right. And I remember those conversations you overhear, this strong moral conflict that she had, being a religious woman, but then having empathy for this child that if was going to be born, was going to have a very, very poor quality of life, health-wise. And I remember her speaking about it with her friends. And that's the second time I heard the word abortion, where she's just like, what do I do? How do I do what's best for this child? And I remember she had a miscarriage naturally, which helped her with that decision, which she was going to, make. Fast forward to last year, I went down to visit my mom and my grandmother in Charlotte. And so I'm talking to my grandmother, she's older, and I don't know why I just asked her, have you ever had an abortion? And my grandmother, who had her first child at 14, who she lived in the South, she had her first child at 14. She came to East Orange, New Jersey in the early 50s, away from the family in the South, going back to that conversation, how women got pregnant and they moved away. The whole family from the South uprooted because of my grandmother being 14 and pregnant to East Orange, New Jersey. And really, that's how our life got settled here. So I'm a 3rd generation East Orange, Jerseyan, I don't know how to call it. But because of that, so I don't know why it made me ask her, because I just figured she never did. It was just a conversation starter. And my grandmother said that she did have an abortion. And it was like, wow, I would have never known if I didn't ask. And then it opened up a conversation where my mother didn't know that. And it was a conversation for her to say, well, this is what I had one in the 80s. And my grandmother had one after she had all 4 of her other children. And it was like, these conversations are really, really important because it connected 3 generations of women with this conversation. And that it's important. My mother would have never known that her mother had one and how they were connected, because my mother would have never asked that, because it's something that so many people are ashamed of with themselves, that they feel like that's something that they did, they can never tell anybody what it was because it's so bad. And they're praying for redemption. It's one of those things that they're praying for. They say in their prayers and they ask God to forgive them for all the time. They never open up their mouths to say, do you have this secret too? And so I was so glad that I asked that, and I wasn't, in a way, in our community, in our world, it was kind of like something very, very brash and disrespectful to ask, your grandmother, has she ever had an abortion? And what she said was first, so we didn't call them abortions in our days. I don't know. She said a D and something.
DNC. That's what the white women did. DNC.
Yeah, she said, well, it was we called it, she said a DNC. And my mom says, and it wasn't the pregnancy that I knew of that she, the miscarriage that she had, because she was pregnant a few times that, I won't say elder, she had some high risk pregnancies. So it was like, wow. So these conversations are important. Also, I had a friend this summer, she comes up from Texas. She's like, girl, let's go out. Let's have a good time. We go out, we hit the club. We're young, we're 25. Life was good, And then she comes back up a few weeks ago and we're talking, and she said that she came up from Texas to have her abortion around that time we had one out. And so I was really, I don't know how I was supposed to feel about it. I felt bad that she had to come all the way to New Jersey for it. So yeah, I didn't know. And it wasn't until a few weeks ago how bad I realized it was for the women in Texas. Because going from Texas to New Jersey for that procedure, it was the emotional toll already that she explained she was having, but to travel, to the expenses, the plane tickets, and
Yeah. I think what's most powerful that you shared with us, Naja, is the honesty that your grandmother had with you. Because I think if more of our seniors, our elders, told us the truth about their truth, then we wouldn't be in a lot of the situations that we're in, whether it's, partying or getting pregnant or doing drugs or just whatever. So when we are open and honest and forthcoming with our the next generation, that serves us all well. So that was really powerful. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, thank you, ladies. Yeah. Everybody have a good week.
Absolutely. Don't leave us. I have one more person I want to bring into the conversation. She's one of my former students, Stephanie. Stephanie, are you still here?
Hi, everyone. Yes, I'm still here. Okay. I want to say thank you so much, Miss Marsha. Thank you so much, Moji, for sharing the information. This was really, really knowledgeable. I always get so nervous. But I'm saying what I wanted to say was that this conversation is so needed, because when I engage in the conversation of abortion, it's usually around the realm of religion and why it's a sin and things like that. And so don't shut down, to your point, Moji, about not wanting to engage in this is all great information. I didn't know a lot of the stuff that was brought to the table, especially if they have another way, kind of an open mentality about it. The information. I did want to say that, Moji, you said earlier that when the older generation against abortion, just because it's a religious thing, and they don't understand the impact get to the younger generation that taking away women's healthcare rights, it means. Like, I participate in birth control, right? I mean, I think it's everybody's choice. You should be able to choose whatever it is. How I think, Miss Jennifer, you said what you eat doesn't affect how I poop or something like that. Just this idea that, that's your business, right? And who died and made you king over my rights and my choices, right? So again, thank you so much for sharing. This is a much needed conversation. Thank you, Miss Higgy, for always inviting me and staying on top of me about coming.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you. Stephanie's one of my old students, and man, now
we can see that, Helen.
She's a married woman with 2 children. I feel like I'm a part of her family. So the impact that we have on young people, is just very important, and I take it very seriously. So. And when I ask her,
can I just say though, Helen, I love this village. I pray we keep it going. And I think that's the thing here. We got to create our own village. We got to stop living those people's colonial lives and realize we have a village, let me talk, of our own, and we got to get back to that village.
And
it would serve us so much better.
That's why we
and I feel so comfortable here, like our ancestors are saying, yeah, you girls is in the right place. You ladies are in the right place. And we got to hold that down for the sisters like you, Stephanie. That's coming behind us.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I mean, the goal of when Black women gather is to bring Black women together intergenerationally, to have these kinds of conversations, to pass on wisdom, to pass on tradition. We've gotten away from that. And I think it was a part of who we were naturally. So it's really important. So sometimes I have to drag my young people in, but when I ask them, they come. And Linda's students also always show up too. So thank you so much for being open and honest about your situation, and love you dearly, Miss Lady. And I haven't seen either of your babies. I'm going to have to drive out to COVID be damned. I'm going to have to drive out to Chicago.
Wow.
Yes, I'll send you pictures.
Okay, I see them. I see them all the time. Okay, so we are going to, believe it or not, wrap it up. I'm going to ask for closing remarks from both Marsha and Moji, and Lena, are you still with us? I don't know, Lena.
Yes, I'm still here.
Oh,
it's been great conversation.
Thank you. You kicked it off just right for us. So
I appreciate that.
Yes, she did.
That was perfect and divine intervention. And I can't thank you enough for sharing your poem with us. And for everybody on here who shared your comments, your experiences, cannot thank you enough either. So Moji, I know you have a little boy that's dying.
I know. You see he's running behind me like, damn, what are you doing?
So can you please just give us some parting words, and then we'll let you go to your son. And I cannot wait to meet you when you come to Camden.
I'm going to be out there soon.
Okay.
I want to entreat everyone again to talk about your abortion, or ask people around you about their abortion. Make it a centerpiece of your conversation. I know I said that I don't talk to people who are not interested in me, but I work at a place called Abortion Access Front. So literally when someone asks me, where do you work? I'm having an abortion conversation. And like I find, it happened recently. I met a new friend, and like her husband's mom was around, and she was like, what do you do? And I was like, here we go. But you find good things about people. I also want to say, support your local abortion funds, find ones. The storm is here against abortion rights. And so also, if you have the capacity, be your own abortion fund. And by that, I just mean put some money aside and let people know that if they need your help getting an abortion, you are available to help them, because increasingly people are going to have to travel. People are going to have to hunt. People are going to have to learn that, like, we have abortion pills and they'll ship them to you for places. You don't have to coat hanger. I recently read about a woman who was researching coat hanger abortions and then was like, what's the abortion pill? And I think that there are a lot of resources that we know. Self-managed abortion is a thing, and there are ways to do it safely. And we need to educate ourselves and find out about it. And if anyone wants to ask me any questions, I am available. Also, I work for a white-led organization. So if you're donating money, please give it to Ms. Marsha. We are also a nonprofit, but yes, we're all right.
That's called sister love. I love it. All right, thank you so much, Moji. And I think we may need to even continue this conversation. So if so, I hope that both of you will be interested in coming back. But I'm going to let you go right now and get to that little guy behind you. And thank you again. Okay. Miss Marsha, what are your parting words?
I want to say thank you, Moji. I love sitting in spaces with younger Black women, and I absolutely love intergenerational conversations. So thank you for, and I don't know why I don't know you, but that's all right. I don't get to know everybody.
You know her now.
Yes, but I just want to again say thank you all for, thank you, Helen, for inviting me to come. And thank you all for receiving me while I was here. This was so refreshing. This was not a hard conversation. I wish y'all could see how many pages I have written in this thing. And then I put it down and said, girl, you finna talk to sisters, like just talk. What are you doing? Yeah. And so that's what I did. And I do that all the time anyway. Y'all don't ever use the paper. But thank you all so much. There's a couple of announcements I want to make before I go. So how do you help us? There's so much folk with expertise that we need. We're always needing somebody sometimes to give us some legal advice. Sometimes we need folk. I'm at a point where I want to write more. I want to write more op-eds, and so I write the way I talk. So it's a lot of stuff. And so we need help with stuff like that, helping us write. You know, if you have some skills in communications, you know, helping us to get really good bamming, slamming, not so op-eds, but also press releases and things like that. So those are the kind of things that we need. We need some of these skills that Black women have. We are looking to make some of our trainers do curriculums. So if you have experience in writing curriculums, we need that kind of help. So do we need finances? Yes, but we also need those other resources that people have that continue to grow the capacity of our organization. If you're interested in getting really good on how you can vote or do write-ins, sign-ons or whatever, we work with an organization in DC called In Our Own Voice. And In Our Own Voice is a collaborative of it's a Black women-led space, but it is a collaboration of Black women-led reproductive justice and reproductive rights organizations around the United States. And reproductive justice, not reproductive justice, but In Our Own Voice do a lot of the legal work, not legal work, but policy work for us. So they write the policy stuff. They do the letters of sign-ons. They do a lot of speaking in DC, you know, because they're right here. And so they can literally kind of guide you or answer any questions you have on policies in any state that's going to have a bad outcome for Black women in our reproductive choices. And so In Our Own Voice, not with an S on the back, but just In Our Own Voice. So you can always go to them. I talked about the State of Black Women report that's going to be coming out. And if you want to read it for us and put your eyes on it and see any misspelled words or anything, just let us know. We're going to put it out in a couple of weeks. And it's right now, it's still electronic. And the last thing is in May. Every other year on the even year, we have a Texas Black Women's Reproductive Justice Summit. And we do it on the even year because on the odd year, we have our legislative session. And so that's when we put out the State of Black Women on the year. And we have like a 3 or 4 day summit, and we center things that having a reproductive justice conversation with folk who are not normally having those conversations. And we bring them in a space for 3 or 4 days. This year is going to be a hybrid space. So it's going to be some virtual and some in person. And so if you all would like to be a part of the virtual piece of it, that if you know some really cool people who could come and sponsor us, like if you know entertainers and stuff like that, because they're always, I don't know those people who would do us a fundraiser, because it's going to take a few $100,000 to make this happen. And to kick it off, a fundraiser of some kind, something that could happen virtually the night before, a couple of weeks before, that roll into it. So those are the things that we need at the Afiya Center. So I'm hoping that Billy Avery, if you all know Billy, she's gonna be proud of me because I had my ask ready. I never know what to ask. Helen had said it yesterday. And so I was like writing stuff down because she tells me all the time, you need to start asking for stuff. And so that's what we need. Yes, we always need the money. If you can donate to us. Oh, and we're about to open up a birth center.
That's what I was going to say. I didn't know if I could mention it.
We're about to open up a birth center.
Yeah.
And a lot of our doulas are on the call today. And so that is definitely where we're going to need a lot of financial help, because they will give us money in Texas for abortion work, but they will not give us money in Texas for birth work.
Gotcha. Yep.
Thank you.
That's fascinating.
Thank you.
Yeah, love it. And I see that, oh, wait a minute, am I calling? Hold on.
Kiana?
I see that you guys are, so I'm going to tell your people to make sure they drop stuff in the link. So Kiana is your person?
Mm-hmm. She got our website there, and our email address is info@theafiyacenter.org.
Okay.
So info@theafiyacenter.org.
Yep. So I just want to say, ladies, again, thank you both for coming. I want to say to the people in the audience that this was an idea. My sister, I don't know if she's still on this call or not, but I got this idea from her to do this call. And I ran it by you all on the first evening that we got together in 2022, and along with other things that we're going to talk about. So I want us to have these organic conversations. I want us to have conversations that are considered difficult, because I feel that if it's a difficult conversation, it probably means it's a necessary conversation. And tonight was definitely one of those necessary conversations. And I'm going to say it again. I'm so glad we did it. And I'm positive that, you know, people learn things tonight that you did not know before. And that makes it all the worthwhile. And whenever, what do we say? When Black women gather, what's our tagline? You guys can open up and say it. Who knows the tagline? Like,
amazing things
amazing.
things happen.
When Black women gather, amazing things happen. So we welcome Moji and Marsha to our amazing, and thank you for an amazing evening.
Thank you both, ladies. Thank you, sisters.
Yes, thank you, ladies.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Feel the love, ladies. Feel the love.
Yes.